Okay, the far left today are in absolute meltdown about these new Trump announcements. He's mentioned 5 things. These are different from the 10 things we talked about on Friday. These are 5 things around free speech or restoring free speech again. It takes a lot to shock me. I think you know that. But when I saw this video today, my jaw absolutely dropped when I heard these 5 things. We're going to go through them all now then.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans.
And if you've been with me for a few years here, you know that I've been treading on eggshells for at least the past few years with my content out of concern, I think we can say, of my channel getting banned, which it has been multiple times. You know this over the last few years, anywhere from a 24-hour ban to a 7-day ban, simply for covering media content that is not appropriate to, and again, when I talk about the left, I'm talking about the far left, like the extreme left. I'm not talking about your typical Democrat. I'm sure there's plenty of people who watch my content who sit on the left. No issues at all with that. I don't mind if you sit on the left or if you sit on the right. It makes no difference to me. I treat everybody equally. But who I do have a concern with is these groups, these entities on the extreme far left. I don't like them one bit, and I think they have absolutely destroyed free speech and made it very difficult for a lot of people to create good content over the last few years. But this is all about to change. So let's get into the 5 points here then. And I'm going to put my hat and sunglasses on as we go for a walk because it's a hot day today. Okay, let's get started with this first clip then. You can hear what Trump had to say.
In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately.
And he's absolutely right. If you don't have free speech in any country, you don't really have a country after a while. This is what's happened in history. I mean, history is our best lesson. This is what happened in other countries. You start looking at what has happened when free speech is eroded, and next thing you know, you end up in some, let's say, some very tricky situations for the citizens of those countries. And everything as well is linked to economics. It always amazes me how many people vote for socialism or communism. It's like, turkeys voting for Thanksgiving. It's quite unbelievable to me, at least. So let's have a look at point number 1 then from his speech. Let's load this up.
First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are.
So the key points of this executive order then really set up for the next point. He's going to be stopping them from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor lawful free speech within the United States. So you can see the strength of this 5-pronged approach there. Number 1, banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor free speech. It then goes on to stop federal money being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation. And this is where it gets really crazy. And I'm absolutely all for this, by the way, just to let you know. I think this is a great thing. Firing anybody who is engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether in the DOJ, Department of Justice, any of these, the FBI, any of these departments, these people are going to be fired. And I think this will teach a very valuable lesson. So if you thought point number one was serious, point number two is prosecution. Yes, actually prosecuting these people, any and all crimes identified.
Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship.
He's sending out preservation letters. So if you've never come across that before, it means that it becomes a criminal offense to actually destroy evidence that could result in your prosecution, because you know that that is what most of these people would do right away, right off the bat. They are going to destroy the evidence that stops them being prosecuted. So these letters have been sent out. It's already done. So they can't start destroying information. Point number three then is all around 230. Let's load it up.
Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech.
So I think this is pretty clear. He's going to get all of these big tech social media platforms out of the business of censorship. They will not have any more immunity against this unless, it says, unless they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. And I know some people are probably going to say, no, Neil, this is, Trump just using extreme language or something like that. Actually, they are cartels if you think about it. They really are social media cartels because, and here's the proof of it, when one person gets deplatformed from, let's say, YouTube, and I mean permanently deplatformed, not a week or one day or something, what do you notice across all the other platforms? They get taken down from there as well. It's one hit. So there's definitely collusion there. Otherwise, how would they all know to deplatform at exactly the same time on exactly the same day? We've seen this with someone I used to watch was Barbara O'Neill, if you remember her.
Table salt is a dangerous salt because we now have two very harsh minerals that if you were to inject both of those into the blood, you would die.
Brilliant, brilliant stuff she would always talk about. I learned loads of tips from her, and they got rid of her. They just deplatformed her entirely. I could give you loads of names, not necessarily people that I've watched, but there was David Icke, London Real, Alex Jones. There was all these different people who were deplatformed. Oh, and not forgetting Russell Brand, which was the most recent one to be deplatformed as well. Because what did they do? They allowed him to stay on there, but they took away his advertising revenue. We all remember the story. It was prosecution without trial. It was prosecution by the social media, well, the mainstream media, which then became prosecution by the social media to remove his funding. Now, since I don't watch a lot of these channels, I can't really talk about the wrongs and rights of whatever they said, but that's not the point. It's not a moral point. It is a censorship, it's a law point. It's freedom of speech. And it's being deplatformed, so someone taking away your job, as it were, your income, your business, without any right of appeal, without any trial. These are the issues. Point number 4 then, let's hear what he had to say.
Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling-off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data.
Wow, wow, wow. We all know that university, I mean, it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you sit on. We all know it's not really debatable. We know that universities lean more to the left politically, especially the professors. So this is going to hit them hard, really, really hard. 5 years then. 5 years defunded. Oh my goodness, that is going to be brutal for some of these universities. So in particular, he's talking about the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendments rights, or in other words, to deprive people of their vote. Because he said once you lose the elections, you lose the borders and you no longer have a country. And on the cooling off period aspect, I don't think most people realize just how serious this is. Let's get the hat and sunglasses back off here. And I honestly wish that I made that investigation, because I completely missed that. How many people were going into roles into Facebook and Twitter and all these other YouTube platforms who were former CIA, FBI, DOJ, all of these departments. In fact, you've got NSA, the DNI, DHS, DOD. It's unbelievable. And that's why I think they were talking about how it has been weaponized. These platforms have been weaponized. And now you can see why, because these people are highly trained who are going into these positions. So a 7-year cooling off period would completely stop that. Because you've got to think about it. Why would they want those posts apart from the weaponization? It's because of the data. It's getting people's data. It's obvious they want the data. And then point number 5 then, let's get on to this one. Here we go.
Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. We as content creators, or even not even content creators, just normal people, should be informed, firstly, why our content is being removed, or why we're being shadow banned or throttled, as he said, or why our channel might get taken down. And we should be entitled to a right of appeal. There's been so many times. The perfect example is the Great Reset video that I did, where it hit, what was it, 800,000 views just like that, overnight almost. And then it got taken down and I got a 7-day ban. And I said, why have I got this 7-day ban? It doesn't make any sense. What have I done wrong? And they wouldn't tell me. And then 2 or 3 years later, I finally get an email out of the blue saying your appeal was successful. There was nothing wrong with the video at all. You didn't breach any terms and conditions, and now you can receive monetization for it. Well, the video's not even displayed. It's not in search results. I missed out on all of that advertising revenue. And you got to think, if I didn't have other businesses and other income, I would have been in big trouble. You know, a lot of content creators, that's all they do, is just make content. So if they're not earning money from their content, how are they supposed to make content? You see, it was the weaponization of money as well, because if you say anything that isn't with the narrative, you can lose access to your funds. So I, for one, am really happy about these 5 points, this new announcement today. I think it's going to be great for giving people their free speech back. But I think over in the UK, we've still got a long way to go before all of this is resolved. I just see it getting worse and worse, and we saw that with everything that happened with the protests / riots back in July. That was just a crazy situation, and there's a lot of people in prison from that. Some of the people were not rioters, remember. Some of those people just posted things to social media, or they were protesters. So I think the UK is going to get worse in this regard until it finally reverses and gets better. Probably at the next election, I would expect. I think we'll probably see a flip at the next election. But if you're in the EU, good luck, seriously. Yes, individual countries can reverse this quite quickly, turn it around. But in terms of the EU as a whole, like the EU presidency, you know, we don't even vote for the EU president. We don't even get a choice of that. So this is going to be very interesting. I think this is going to be very positive now, this new proposals by Trump and Vance. I think let's just see where this all goes. So thanks so much for watching today. Take care, God bless. Make sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.